Did a video the other day about back pain and sitting, and somebody had a question about what about sleeping. I have a lot of back pain when I sleep. What do I do to solve that? So this video today is about the best position to sleep in if you have back pain and how to eliminate it. That's the key. So you're not alone. A lot of people suffer. I suffered for 10 years. And a lot of things that we do, and certainly these tips are about what I did to make myself better, and there is hope for you. There's always hope that you can get better. So understanding why you have the problem helps you eliminate it. It takes all the confusion and guesswork, and it's not uncommon that people say, oh, I went to bed and when I woke up my pain was so bad I couldn't tolerate it, because you did something wrong while you're sleeping. And there are 3 positions. And it has everything to do with the spine and what's happening to your spine. Between the head and the hips, 24 vertebrae. Between each vertebrae, there is a disc. The vertebrae are the bones, and then in between the vertebrae is the disc. And the disc typically is why you have the problem. Disc is a lot like a jelly donut in the sense that the outside the disc, there's a very thick material. Inside the disc, there's a jelly. And the jelly can move under specific loads. The way you sit, the way you bend, the way you twist, all these things will change the direction of the load on the nucleus, which very often will force the nucleus out. So the key is, what position are you in that might be forcing it out? And not everybody is the same. That's why we have 3 positions. But what happens is that nucleus starts to push out. When it starts to push out, you'll create sort of an inflammation and an aggravation to the annulus. And the annulus will get a little inflamed and it'll hurt. And sometimes certain positions that you sleep in will overload the disc. So the key to this is to identify what positions cause you the most aggravation and eliminating the aggravation by doing the opposite. And we'll show you what that looks like. But the key is the inflammatory process and then the weakness in the annulus. And what happens is the annulus, as it starts to push out, you'll develop a little bit of a bulge on the disc. And as it pushes out further, you'll develop a little bit of a herniation on the disc. Now, it doesn't matter if they're calling it a bulge, a herniation, or a degeneration. All of them will have this inflammatory process that will cause you pain. And then what happens over time is the annulus will start to tear. And as it starts to tear, it becomes inflamed. And rotation aggravates tear. So the key is to avoid the rotation. A lot of times people roll over in bed, and they roll with their hips and then they roll with their shoulders. The key is to roll everything at the same time. So you can't just roll with your hips and then roll your shoulders. You have to roll everything at the same time. That way you're not twisting on the disc. We'll talk about that. And there's a very specific position that you have to sleep in if you have that problem. And I'm going to try to demonstrate it. What we have found by using 5,000 MRIs is that certain motion patterns cause the discs to move out and to move back in. Now, when they move out, what you're doing is you're aggravating it. You're creating that inflammation. As it pushes out, if you do an activity that causes it to push out, you're aggravating more of the tissue and then creating a little bit more of a tear. So what we have found is with these positions, when you identify what your position is, you can avoid those activities, but there's also a very specific set of exercises that match that position. That's the key. That's the key to all this. That's the key to why you did not get better. That's why the system has failed you, because they have not done the right thing. Or they've treated you as one size fits all. It is not one size fits all. Again, major discovery. We did 5,000 MRIs, before and after MRIs. And what we found is we have found that this disc will move. Okay, we do it weight bearing and we add motion to it. So the key is to identify which motion patterns are specific for you. Because when you aggravate the disc, it's the same way if you hitting your thumb with a hammer. I don't know what my hammer is. Hitting your thumb with a hammer, what happens is your thumb will get very swollen. It becomes very sensitive. And simple activities hurt it. Same thing happens to the disc. It becomes very, very hypersensitive. It's oversensitive as a result of the aggravation from the disc. All the aggravation causing the inflammation all day long. Bending, lifting, twisting, getting out of your car, getting out of bed, sleeping. That's why all the tips are so very, 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 very important, because they desensitize the tissues. The key is to unload the disc. So what do we know? 3 positions. And it has everything to do with the curves of the spine that take the sensitivity off the tissues. Eliminate that load. The spine functions very well when it has a sort of natural, neutral curve. If you get better when you lean forward, then there's a very specific position. Or if you get worse when you lean forward, there's a very specific position. Or if you get worse when you lean back, or you get better when you lean back. So here's the key. The key is to make sure that we maintain that curve. Now, if you get better where your spine is a little flatter, then what you want to do is you want to put your feet in a position where it creates some flatness to your spine. So the beginning phase, you may decide that you put a little pillow under your knees, and what that does is it flattens the spine a little bit. That takes the pressure off the disc, assuming this is your relief position. You have to identify what your position is, and we have a step-by-step process we call the 10X program that walks you through this. It's a big part of the program because you have to figure out what your relief position is. But if you've identified that, yeah, I feel a little bit better on my back with my feet up, then this is the position you need to sleep in. If you feel worse when you lean back, this is the position you want to be in. If you feel better when you lean forward, this is the position you want to be in. Flattens the spine a little bit. That's the key. So you have to identify which positions make you better, which ones make you worse. Again, if you lean forward a little bit and you feel a little bit better, or you feel worse when you lean back, this is the position that you want to start in. Okay? The key is to maintain the curve. So if you feel worse when you lean forward, then what you have to do is you have to make sure that you maintain that curve. And the way you maintain the curve, there's 2 things you can do. Number 1 is a harder bed with a pillow top. And what happens is the harder bed allows your hips to settle in, and the pillow top gives a little bit of support for the curve. I've also recommend that if you have like a little towel, you don't want to overdo it because too much pressure on the disc will aggravate the disc. But if you have like a little towel, you can put it under there and it gives you a little bit of support. Not too much. If it's too thick, it's going to push up and it's going to hurt more. But just enough support under those lumbars. Now, it doesn't need to be too big. If it's too big, it's not going to work. Sometimes, again, just a hard bed with a pillow top helps. If not, try this. So that's position number 2. Now, position number 3 is where you put a pillow between your knees. And the key, again, is to avoid the rotation. So what we do is we have you put a pillow between your knees, and I'll show you what that looks like. But when the pillows are between your knees, you have to make sure your spine is straight. The pillow between the knees prevents the hips from rotating down. I'm going to try this. Let's see how this goes. So it kind of looks like this. If you're sleeping on your side, you want to maintain a neutral position of your spine. You don't want the shoulders to roll forward, and you don't want the hips to roll forward. So what we recommend is putting a pillow between your knees that kind of looks like this. And when the pillow is between your knees, what it does is it prevents your pelvis from rotating, but also you need to make sure you keep your spine in alignment. When you do not have a pillow between your knees, what happens is the knee drops down, and when that knee drops down like that, it causes rotation of the pelvis. And again, the key was if there was a position where the annulus was torn, the rotation is going to hurt. So this keeps you in a position where there's no rotation. So the 3 positions are flatten the spine if you feel better with your spine a little bit flexed. And if you feel a little bit better when you lean back, then you need to make sure that you keep the arch in the spine by having a hard pillow or a hard bed with a pillow top. And the third one is laying on your side with a pillow between your knees, making sure the spine stays straight. You don't want the hips in one position and the shoulders rolling forward. The key is to prevent the rotation, because the rotation aggravates the annulus. Again, we have to take the pressure off the annulus. So the daily habits eliminate the cause of your pain. What's the cause? It's the constant aggravation. Constant aggravation over time will aggravate it. We've developed a process that walks you step by step through all of this. The first phase is decrease the inflammation. That's how to sit. That's how to sleep. It's how to bend. It's how to brush your teeth. We call it the daily routine. It's all the things you do every day will decrease the aggravation and the inflammation. And then we have you go through a program where we stabilize, we strengthen, restore motion, all the things necessary. It's a step-by-step process. Sleeping is phase one, although it's a habit that you need to develop and do the rest of your life. All these things are about proper habits. You get in the routine and you do it where it's a habit. You don't have to think about it. Again, it's 5 phases, step-by-step process where we walk you through the program every day. Okay? Key is to avoid the aggravation. So it's all about the healthy movements and decreasing the future episodes of back pain, because what you're doing is you're aggravating the condition. There is hope. There's always hope. This program lets you take control, takes the guesswork out of it. It takes a little bit of thinking, but it's not hard to do. Some questions you have to fill out, get a better understanding, and kind of remind yourself. It's a 10-step process, give you unlimited access to our membership site, free access to a web class. It's really important, and actually this is part of it, understanding the why. When you understand why, that's the most important thing. If you have any questions, you can ask me the questions. You can send me emails. We have an online Facebook group. You can access the private Facebook group. And normally this is $97 a month. If you sign up today, it's $47 a month. TotalBackPainRelief.com, 10x order 1. It's designed step by step to walk you through the program, so you can take the pressure off the disc and allow the annulus to heal. Takes a little bit of time, get your life back, feel good, have a good life. That's it. How to sleep, be good, be safe.